Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to be really rad and tubular and also discover a little bit of sovereignty and self-authentication? We got a killer show for you. Boom, it's back.
Dude, I got a little trigger happy
Hey,
on the video.
it's all good. It's all good. I can't wait to get to the show either. So it's like, let's go, let's go.
Let's do it. It's Easter Sunday.
Right.
Happy
He's
Easter.
risen. He's risen,
Yes.
man.
Yeah. Happy Easter, everybody. I love it. It's great. Is that what the kids though are saying all these days? Tubular and rad, and I don't know what they say.
They are tubular,
They are,
Especially in
Sunday.
Saskatchewan.
especially in southern Saskatchewan in Canada, right above
Yeah.
North Dakota. We use words like tubular, far out, right on, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, the great thing about this show is we get to learn all over the world all the phrases, and it seems like
Yeah.
rad and tubular are the ones that show up everywhere.
Bogus is another one we use up here too.
Yeah.
That's solid.
That's bogus. That
There you go,
bogus.
kids. Now you speak Canadian.
We do, eh?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hold on to your toques and your ketchup chips and let's go.
Right on.
I love it. My name is Ryan Morris, here with Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm also partner with Nick in a Tribe of Giants on Facebook. So go to Facebook, find us. Not right now, but when we're done. And it's a killer community of amazing people that will help you on your journey. And also co-creator of Tribe of Giants and Wake Up with Giants TV. Nick Smith is an author, a speaker, a family man. He's getting married and stuff.
Getting married. Yeah.
Love it. But he wrote this book, The Giants and the Smalls. Go find that on Amazon. This book changed my entire life. So go find that thing. Read it. It's all about an internal journey. And then, because Nick does Nick things, he went and then he just goes crazy. He has the best AI applications. He has just a beautiful mind. And he created this website that has everything I think that a human would ever need, maybe other than food and water. So it's like food, water, this website.
I think it does. Maybe I'll put ordering in there like DoorDash.
Yeah, right. Then it would have everything. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, come on over and check it out. Because at My 12 Journeys, we really do have it stocked full for you. The newest addition here is the identity process. So if you're looking at rewriting your story and who you think you are, yeah, maybe you've lived it your whole life, but now it's time to change it because now it's getting in the way of your dreams and visions. And so I've created the entire process here and it's free. So you don't even have to put in an email or anything. You just come into the website, click right here, and it's going to take you to this page where you have an entire website built out around identity. So it's based on the 12 journeys, the 5 laws, the 3 A's of becoming a giant. It's powerful. So there's 8 different frameworks that are tied into this based on current research. If you're stuck or you find that you know the information, but you keep going back to the same patterns, you're playing small in your life and you want to change it and you know how to change it, but you're not able to because you keep repeating the same patterns, then this is for you. So I did build a companion AI GPT to go with it, but I do hold that for our participants of our program. And so they'll have access to it in our SG program. So we built out an entire set of tools here for people that have gone through that for the rest of your life. You have access to these. And so there's a ton of information built out in here to help and support you in your Giants journey. So if you're curious, ask us. The program, you can do it one-on-one with either myself or Ryan. Or you can do it in a group setting. We've had couples go through. I've had kids go through. You know, it's pretty amazing that it starts to establish those patterns early on so that you can really live a giant life. So really cool stuff.
Yes. See?
And that's it.
Food, water, this website. It's essential for life. Oh, I love it. And I'm so excited about our guest. You know, we got trigger happy about the button.
Oh my
I don't
God.
have a button to push to say, hey, introduce him, but if I did, there you go.
And here we go. Yeah.
Ding.
So today we're talking about healing, sovereignty, and what it means to reclaim your authentic self. So many people are living from inherited pain, old programming, and survival patterns they didn't choose. But real transformation begins when we become aware of those cycles and decide to live in alignment instead of reaction. So this episode connects deeply to the 12 journeys through awareness, acceptance, empowerment, vision, and legacy. Our guest today is Justin James Sundance Robson. Sundance is a professional coach, storyteller, and sound creation artist dedicated to the reclamation of human sovereignty and the process of self-authentication. He's the founder of Spirit Wealth and Sphere of the Sacred Man, helping individuals and communities move beyond trauma and reconnect with their most authentic selves. His own journey from addiction and victim state mentality to spiritual awakening and purposeful service makes this conversation incredibly powerful. So please help me welcome Sundance Robson.
Oh, thank you so much. That was
I
great.
need to play the sounds, dude, like that. The cheering. Don't we have
Yes.
cheering? Let's
I
see.
don't remember.
Hit it.
Oh, right here.
Give me one time.
Yep.
Check that out. Hey, Sundance Robson. Let's get a bigger crowd.
Oh yeah,
Oh, there we go. There we go. Hey, I had no idea those were there.
Just the lower deck.
Yeah. Now feeding the ducks. Feeding the ducks. Oh, there we go. That's nice.
That's kind of like that's like some serious clothes shopping music right there.
That is right.
When you enter a new clothes store, that's exactly what it sounds like.
And you're changing in the dressing room, and you got that music going, and you forget where you are for a minute.
And it's just like, I just don't like the way this fits.
It ends.
Dude, let's jump in. So when we start these shows, they can go in any direction, and we're open to wherever this goes. You know, we like to explore who you thought you were. So there's probably a transition point where you were living an identity, and maybe the one that was handed to you, family, traditions, culture, society hands you this identity, and you think that's you. And so you live that. And then you find out that it's not really fitting anymore, talking about fitting, and you try something else on. Can you kind of remember a spot in your life where you thought you were somebody and how that impacted you?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I just want to thank yourself, Nicholas, and you, Ryan, for having me on this show. I love both of you men. You're both powerful stands for men and humans.
Thank you.
And so this creation of this podcast is a really powerful thing to be a part of. So I'm honored to be able to be in the lineage of the many that have been on this before me. So
it's good to have you here, and we know your voice is going to carry too to people we haven't even met yet. You know.
Yeah. You know, so to answer the question, it didn't start off that way. You know, I remember. I love that you introduced me as Justin James Sundance Robson. People always ask me, you know, is that your name, Sundance? Right? And yeah, it's my name, Sundance. It's one of my given names. And when I was about to be born, my mom and dad were like, what do we call him? Right. And my dad was Indigenous Canadian. And at that point in time in Canada, the residential school, these government-run, church-run boarding schools were sort of beginning to phase out, but the after effects of these schools were still really prominent within the Indigenous community. And so I was the first generation of children that did not need to go to these government-run, church-run schools. There was a lot of abuse that happened in these schools. And I think that my father, you know, having me and my mom having me, my dad had a natural concern. What's going to happen when he's born? Is he going to be forced off to the schools? And, you know, what's his identity going to be? Because I think that was something that they considered to a certain degree. And they said, well, we're going to give him a white name. We're going to give him a red name. And we'll give him Justin James and we'll give him Sundance Robson. And he'll have a white name and he'll have a red name. He'll walk the white path in life and he'll walk the red path in life. And when this happens, he'll decide. And, between, from the very first time that I can really remember, I was always called Sundance at home. And, I went to my orientation at kindergarten I was about 5 years old, I guess. And, I remember shown my little kindergarten box, and I remember just seeing a big name written on it, and it was Sundance. And I remember there was some type of altercation that happened on the school ground. And I remember some kids were calling me Moon Dance, like teasing me, right? Today, that's kind of a cool name too, right? But back then as a little kid, you're just like, yeah. When you're a little kid back then, it's something that's a reason to cry. So whatever it was that occurred, I reacted, and the school went to my parents and said, look, we should probably go by another one of his names because Sundance is probably going to be too hard for him to spell. It was a Catholic school that I went to, and the Catholic school had involvement in the residential schools. And so, there was still that systemic sort of ideology. And I mean, I guess even say racism to a degree in the school. And so, there's other names that I can think of that would be a lot harder to spell. Probably like even Rochelle would be harder to spell than Sundance, but that's what the story they went with. And so that point in my life, I was probably my first identity crisis, because I remember going to school and trying to go to my kindergarten box and find my name Sundance, and it wasn't there. But everybody else could find their kindergarten box. So I was looking for who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the very first time that I realized you got to hide yourself if you're going to be an Indian. You need to hide your identity. And so as I continued to grow up, things became more fractured in my life. And my father became his mental health and his mental well-being really started to regress. And my mom and dad got a divorce, but at that point in time, that divorce was really a beginning of a long descent from my father into drugs and alcohol and what would, even later become, abusing myself. And so, and I imagine we're going to come back around to this. So I'll just sort of, for the sake of what we're talking about right now, I'll continue on with the thread. After that period of time when my mom was locked out of the home, I found myself in some shelters after that. And during that period of time, I really forgot about the abuse. It wasn't something that I remembered. And then we ended up in my grandparents' basement for a period of time after that. And then all this sort of stuff happened between about 7.5 and 10 years old. And then I was in grade 5. And it wasn't long. Grade 6, I had my first drink. It was my friend's older brother that went and pulled beer for us. And that was when it all sort of began for me. And so I would hide alcohol use and, smoking pot at a very early age. And I spent up until the point I was 26 getting loaded until I finally hit a bottom. I checked myself into treatment when I was 26 years old.
Wow.
And then even from 20, like I remember, there was still a period of time between when I got out of treatment. I stayed clean for about 90 days. And then I went back out using. And then for the next 6 years, I struggled to stay clean. I would get clean for 2 weeks. I'd go back out, get loaded. I might stay clean for a week. Then I'd stay clean for a month and just sort of teeter-totter back and forth. Whatever it was I could use, I would do that. And, even I was a medicated kid too on Ritalin and Dextrin and stuff. So, as part of being an Indigenous Canadian, I have access to prescription. So my prescription was paid for. So I just went to the doctor and got a prescription of Ritalin and I used that, that was where my life had come to, until I hit a bottom again in 2013. And that was when I had my last line of drugs, was in November 24th, 2012.
Wow.
And I've been going for it ever since. I've been reaching to be a different person. And I mentioned in my bio that I had an awakening in 2017. And so, I mean, even I have a story about that now, but it's like there was something had to have shifted.
Can we go down that a little bit? There's probably more to share. In the theme of today, right? The Easter Sunday, the idea of rising up, right? In our own lives, sometimes to get to that point of wanting to change or transform, a lot of people won't transform until life gets really hard. And it's not that it's the wrong way. It's just simply that's a way to get us to wake up and rise up from a pattern that's no longer serving us. And that was you back then did the best he knew how to do back then with what he had. And so his method of dealing with life and getting through life was that. And that man back then had enough foresight to say, I need to check me into a treatment center because this isn't working anymore. And he woke up to what needed to change and then started going down the pathway of transformation. And I think people get stuck here as they think, man, if I just want to change and I'm committed to the change, it's going to be easy, and it should be easy. And it's not. Like you said, you go back and forth between that old life and who you were as an identity and rewriting the new life. And there's this going back and forth. And I want to talk about that. Right.
Well, I just want to mention too, and it was challenging. There was a point, 2011, I went and served on a mission trip in Africa and in Botswana and Zambia. And even when I came back, I stayed clean for a period of time. And I thought, I saw something when I was in Africa, like spiritually, I saw something. And when I came back, I got clean. And then I stayed clean for about a month and a half, 2 months. And I went, got loaded again. And I remember waking up from that one. It hurt, man. That one hurt.
Why did it hurt?
It hurt because I just saw the way of life in Africa where I was serving and the people I had spent time with. And I saw that, we went down there with this real Western plan on what we were going to do on this property that we were working on. And we went down there and we saw things moved at the speed of Africa. And we were going to use a shovel and we were going to use a hoe instead of a bobcat. We're gonna do it a little more slowly, and you only need water for today. You only need bread for today. you only need
This is a lesson in itself, but
well, it was just so real. And I remember going to chapel at the orphanage that we were at, and it felt like I was when I walked into chapel, it felt like I walked into some type of an energetic dome or some type of field. And that was really, I think, one of the first encounters I truly had of the Holy Spirit in my life. And it was just joy-filled, ecstatic love, really. But I noticed it. I just noticed it when I stepped into it. And so it was just very real, it was really real, because there wasn't anything else to grasp at. And when I went into the slums with one of the social workers, I met this woman and her who I thought were her children, and she couldn't have been older than 40, but she was actually their grandmother, and both the parents had died of AIDS. And I remember when I was at the orphanage, previous to this tour, I remember seeing two signs on the tree. One sign said AIDS is real, and the other sign said that Jesus was real. And it just, for me, there was just these things that occurred that I just thought, there's nothing else here other than now. And I gave her $50 American. because there was something coming up inside of me, and I went to the next yard and was talking to them and just sort of listening to what the social worker was telling me about this family, and I gave them $20 American. And then we went around the corner and we're in deeper into the slums, and there was a whole row of houses that were sort of just like a row housing, and they all sort of came out at once. And I just thought, I was overwhelmed in that moment. And
Yeah.
because I saw how much I had in the West, you know, being in North America, I saw how much I had. And I saw that there were these people that were enriched by something, and I didn't know what to do. And I just had a word come to me, and it just said, just pray with them. Don't make this about giving money. And I prayed, and we all just came together in this real sort of tight huddle and prayed. And when we broke, everybody was so happy.
Hmm.
And there was this peaceful joy and this like short communion that just sort of took place between all of us for just a couple of minutes, and then we left. And so my life was really changing. And I remember before I went to Africa, I remember being really afraid to go, because I just thought it was crazy to leave the continent and go to Africa. I thought it was crazy, man. You know, and the whole way that I came about going to Africa in the first place kind of happened on a whim. I was coming down, and I watched a movie about Africa. I was coming down off of a use, and I was watching a movie about Africa, and I thought, I'm going to go to church the next day. So I went to try to pick myself back up, and they were advertising this mission trip to Africa. And so I put my name into the whole lot of people, and I was able to go.
That's
right?
amazing.
So it all worked out this way, right? And for me, it was like when I left Africa, I became afraid to go back to North America, because it was like, no, I don't know that this way of life exists in North America. How am I going to live?
Hmm.
And so for me, when I came back, there was this period of time where I felt contained and I felt grounded, but it only happened for so long before the thinking began to pick back up. That old narrative began to run its thing, and the old tapes started to play again. And I went out and got loaded. And I remember just waking up. I remember thinking the whole time I was getting loaded, you did it, didn't you? You did it again. Right. But it was just when I woke up, I was just so broken inside.
Really hard on yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, we see that. So in our training that we do, it's the identity and the amount of shame that comes up in people over who they're being, right, versus who their ideal is. So you want to be this new thing, and then you go back to old patterns, and people are just so hard on themselves over slipping back into old patterns. But man, when you're fighting against that brain and that body, which have, had patterns for so long, they're gonna win, especially if you get back in the old environment, and here you go to Africa, and you're out of your environment, and you're overwhelmed by the need out there, and you find out that what you have as far as money goes isn't sufficient, so you give what you can give, and then you come back to your environment, and then you put all these shoulds on yourself of, you should be more grateful, or you shouldn't be here doing and using again. And then you spiral back into your old patterns, because that's what's comfortable, even when it's uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah. And the wisdom voice within, I wasn't aware at that point in my life enough to know that, I could have prayed the same way that I did when I was in that slum. I could have got quiet and been like, what's that voice that's telling me to use? Who's that knocking on my door? I could have got really quiet, but I wasn't aware at that point about that.
You didn't know, right?
No.
You didn't know how to do that. So to judge yourself over something you didn't even know, that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, is then you learn something, you use that to beat yourself up over what you didn't know when you learned it. Right.
Absolutely. And this is all, and the thing is this is all happening within this like linear model of like, now I lost what I had. I worked so hard and now I lost it. Right. Not realizing, well, the wisdom's still there. my friend.
Mm.
All that journeying that you did, and you slipped and fell on your butt, and you get back up right now. The wisdom will be there.
That's awesome.
Right. But again, it wasn't no, it wasn't. I needed to just continue to have a pity party and go back out and use further because, I still had a few more in me. Right.
Yeah. But you're burning out. Also, you're taking out what no longer serves you, and your body's going to check you. Right.
Yeah.
Are you serious about this or not?
Yeah, exactly. And so that was 2011. So there were still a few more years there that I would use. And it was always in my conscious.
Yeah.
I was never not aware of it. There was always just a little thing there that said, do you want to be doing this?
That's amazing to me. And when do you remember when you shifted from that judgmental mind, to that supporting mind that is more of the question of, are you sure you want to do this? Doesn't sound as judgmental as the one that shames you for doing what you did, right? That one sounds like it's ready to support you in a new pathway, but it's still giving you the freedom to choose, right?
I mean, this is our free will.
Yeah. And yeah, nobody else is going to come in and live our lives for us, and nobody can. You can't wake up another person. You can't force them to see the world the way you want to see it.
Mm-hmm. That one. So I don't remember what set me off in November, but something set me off. So I went and picked up and used, and I used all weekend. But there was something that happened. Like usually when I would fix the thing that I would feel that was calling me to use would go away. It would dissipate.
And
that was why I used primarily. But this time it didn't go away. It just stayed there the whole time. No matter how much I used, it seemed to not go away. It was just there, loud. But it was like a feeling. The psychological voice was always there. Like,
right.
But the feeling would go away with the drugs. And when I ran out and I didn't have any left, I was out of money. I did my last bit of drugs, and then I hit the floor. I broke down and I cried like this guttural cry and moan for about 6 seconds. And then I just got back up and I just said, well, you know what to do, don't you now? And that was it.
What an incredible voice you've got, man. Right. And to say, I got back up, this is a perfect Easter message, right? Get back up. Get back up. You fall down, you go back to old patterns, get back up, keep going. It's meant to be a process. We don't change in a day. Rome, they say, wasn't built in a day. And neither are we, as we have to start anchoring in these new patterns. And when you slip up, it's not the end of the world. Get back up, dust yourself off. Let's keep going. Right.
Yeah.
I had somebody that, and sorry to sneak in here, but I had
you're always
talk
welcome.
to me about the inner voice, and it's interesting because our voices in different circumstances might shift, and depending on who's there or what's happening, and there's kind of an overarching central command, I think, that runs runs the programming, when you let it. And this person said to me something to the effect that I was having a conversation with somebody. I heard in my mind, this isn't how they meant to say it. This isn't what they're saying, but you're taking it a certain way. Slow down, stop, don't react. And they did it anyway. They reacted, it blew up, and whatever they did, their old stuff just blah, just all came out. And then they, and then of course this person then kind of shamed themselves, and was, like, I did it anyway, and I can't believe I did this. And it's interesting though, for me, there's this point where you learn like what to do. You could go through our courses. You could come in front of people like Sundance and hear, okay, don't do this because this will inspire you. I can tell you, I could write, lots of novels on what not to do. but then there's this point where you have all of the patterning, all of your past, ways of being and experiences that are pulling you back. They're pulling you into that comfortable, uncomfortable pattern of who you've always been. And to shift that, to actually get it to go from right here or here into, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Sometimes it can be extremely difficult. It can take years of using again, right? Like sometimes there might be something that's so powerful that cold turkey, you stop, it shifts. Um, but I liked what you said. This is why I said all of this. Is I like what you said, and you talked about like um, just having these experiences gives you just that. It's not looking back at it and going, oh, I did this, and this was terrible, what a waste, and I spent X amount of years of my life going through this, and I could have been this, and I could have been that. To me, it's the experiences or the gold that can never be taken away from you. This is stuff that you can then be relatable, you can share with other people. You learn things. If you can go backwards and survey it and analyze it, that can then help you too to remember who you really are and continue to grow and shift,
Yeah.
And I had messaged this other person and just told them how proud I was of them, and not that they need my approval, but I was beaming that, hey, you got it that far. It was happening inside. Just that next little bit. You're not that far off. You just a little bit at a time start shifting that patterning, and over time that's going to get easier and easier to do as you shift and put it into practical application. And it might take some help. It might take, getting in front of Sundance Robson or Nick Smith, Ryan Morris, or whoever you jive with to be able to help you to that next step.
Hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That silence is perfect, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, it was just sort of a mic drop moment for me because just listening to that, it's like ultimately there were a lot of angels on my path that for sure there was a conscious decision when I was standing there in my kitchen and I said, well, I guess you know what to do now. But what did I do is I went into being in relationship with people after that. So I had to get in front of people. That was what I needed to do next. I needed to face it.
That's where the identity started becoming a new identity. This is where, people talk about reincarnation and resurrection and these ideas and concepts are, internally, we're doing all of those things over and over. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago when Ryan and I started this journey. I can't be the same person I was because I've learned so much and so much has happened that I can't be that identity anymore. But that identity led to me being where I am today, right? And the person I was back in 2009 when I wrote the book, The Giants and the Smalls, 2011, somewhere in that range, he's not the same person. He's not here anymore. And the guy before that's not here anymore. I was on a podcast the other day and she's like, what were you doing at 20 years old? And I'm like, shit, I was just playing. I wasn't doing anything. And she wants to inspire in people, at 20, you might want to figure out where you're going. It's like, I had no clue where I was going. I didn't even know who I was. And that guy was part of the journey too. Right. Mm-hmm. So I just, what I hear in your story here, Sundance, is that it doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what identities you've had. At any point, you can choose to start to develop a new identity, and that's going to emerge from you because that's the power we have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different things that occurred all at one time. It was like this convergence of many different things all at once occurring, right? There was like the learning of all of the error that I had done in my life or judged it as error, these learning things. And then there was the wisdom that I had that had been revealed to me, mixed in with the thing that was dropping away from me. Because the addict was dropping away, the alcoholic was dropping away, the victim was starting to subside a little bit here, right? And so that was definitely a conscious decision to move forward in that energy. And why I do what I do today with the clients that I work with is because of what my own experience was in life, relatively feeling trapped in my mind and always looking for the cause and effect, always looking for someone to blame. Like what's the reason? No, there's got to be one. Well, maybe it was spontaneous, to be quite honest with you. I mean, creation was. So maybe this was too. When I create something like sound, when I do singing, because this is a massive part of my practice. And the thing that I like about it is, there's some songs that I sing my traditional language, which is Ojibwe. And then there's other songs where I'm intonating and I'm not speaking a language, but it's coming from the spirit. And so when people hear it, they can't get caught up in the language. They get caught up in the feeling. But where did the song come from? Well, the song didn't come from a cause. It came from a spontaneous occurrence. It came from a spark. And I think one of the things about having a creator in our life and working with the creator who is constantly creating is we have this ability to also create sparks from before cause, because it arises from within, from somewhere. We don't know when it's going to come, but we do our best to sort of have some type of system for creativity. And within that, the spontaneous arises. But it works the same way with trauma too. This isn't one of these things where it only works over here, but doesn't work over there. And part of me dropping away the me was grace. And because I learned something in the times that I spent in the 12-step rooms, and that was that, but for the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah.
When you see someone walking on the street loaded, it's like, but for the grace of God, there go I. Why'd I get clean? Well, there's that spontaneous stuff, right? And it's why do you would perceive bad things happen to good people? That's the other side of it. And I've had a life where I've seen some pretty brutal things, and lived from a brutal period in my life. When I got clean and I was sitting in treatment, I had to uncover some of that stuff.
Yeah. When you talk about it, it reminds me of a snake shedding skin, right? The skin's still attached. It's still a part of it. It was a part of it. It was what was needed for it to grow to that level. And in the shedding of that skin, it's going to hang on for a minute. And that grace, like you talk about, is the grace for shedding that old life is, of course, you're going to go back. Of course, it's going to hang on. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah. And it itches coming off.
It itches.
Damn the itching.
We just don't need preparation H, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a different kind of itch. But it's beautiful to see, Ryan, I know you've been through your version of that. I've been through my version of that. Is, where we are is just an iteration. Like Mark Nepo talks about the cocoon, is as that where you are, the life that you're in is just the cocoon and the chrysalis for the life you're going to move into. And that shedding of that skin is just simply the space you're in. And so when we can give ourselves grace for that, right, it helps us to move through it a little quicker. If we resist it and we fight it and we shame ourselves over it, well, now we're not able to move on to the next life that we have because we're still battling the old life and we hate that old life. And I think there's some acceptance that allows us to move on from it. Like, you are where you are. You're going through what you're going through. There's a lesson here and a growth that's going to happen from that if you'll allow it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's phenomenal. I mean, to see you evolve from where you started, and the identity you thought you had, and people, picking on you, and you thought that was a big deal, and then leaning on drugs and friends, and then finding out that's not who you are, and you're still not fully stepped into who you are. I think there's more to come. It's all an evolution. But that trip to Africa and having the dream and the connections and there are no accidents that you ended up in Africa with that experience so that you could become who you are today. Right.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So I'd like to play with the idea of the spark, the surrender, because you talk about the spark and it comes from nothing, but it doesn't come from nothing. That everything we need to create everything we can imagine is already here. And sometimes there's a spark that puts it into action so that you can create it. I didn't create the 12 journeys or the giants and the smalls from nothing. It's been all these parts have always been there, but there was a spark that put them together in a way that they could be useful. Right. Mm-hmm. And that was always there. And, when we get into our space of being able to allow ourselves to be who we are, then we open ourselves to that spark, and then that stuff transforms. Mm-hmm. It feels like it came from nothing, but there was never nothing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? And maybe you disagree. Maybe you're like, no, Nick, that's bullshit. I don't see it that way. That would be okay too.
I might have said that, much earlier in life, but I wouldn't say that today. Yeah. I've seen too much to rule out anything at this point, because I mean, what happened in 2017 when, I noticed that there was a dropping away of a certain type of noise, background noise in my life. And there was a real, as what dropped away, what remained was more silence. And, there was a brief moment where, what I believed to be the mind woke up and looked through my eyes and looked back at itself. And in that spontaneous occurrence, everything changed for me in my life. And the reason that I'm saying that is because if you'd looked a week prior to that, everything was totally different. And it's not missable. You won't miss that type of thing when it happens. Mm-hmm. And things became more clear. And that was really when I started to lean more into my sound and frequency and vibration. And, when I was sitting in drug treatment, I had been given a list of things that I had to write a list of all the things that I thought I was powerless over. And that was through that process of writing this list of things that I thought I was powerless over, I became aware of some of the abuses that happened in my life. And that, was interesting because that didn't really do anything for me. People would sometimes wonder, and I'll sit with people that have experienced trauma. I wish I just knew what happened. Well, that happened. It was revealed to me what happened, and it didn't do anything for me other than now I had the image of it, but I couldn't get rid of the feeling.
Right.
And so when grace infiltrates your life and something awakens within you, and it happens within this confluence of working towards it at the same time, although it's not guaranteed. This is the thing about it all. Once it does happen, it doesn't seem like there's a way going back. I haven't been able to. It's constant. Do we still get caught up? 100% we still get caught up. But the caught upness isn't, a 3-week thing. It's it's moved into a place of where it's only a few minutes or a couple of seconds now, right?
Right. That's huge right there. And that to me comes from the acceptance, the acknowledging that it is what it is, and that grace of acknowledgement of, I can't change what is, but I can change what is by what I do next, right? But the what is what it is. I mean, let's kind of throw on some philosophical words here and make it sound interesting, but it is what it is. Like there's no getting out of it. But what you do next is where you have your power. And that grace allows you to do something different. That grace is what gives you the space to choose another pathway and to keep voting for that new identity, like they talk about in Atomic Habits. Vote for that new identity even while the old identity is playing. And eventually that new identity becomes you, and you don't even realize where it transitioned. It just is, right? And that becomes the what is.
I love that so much because I've had people hire me and just recently on the sole premise of helping them with spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people get caught up as like, it's going to be this blast or something. And really, what you just shared is so solid gold, because what about the incremental awakening?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have something explode inside of me and my whole system kind of gets thrown out of order. But that happens if it's like shaking a bottle of pop, because you're so under so much pressure around, maybe you're working hard towards something, or there's such a condensed amount of trauma within you and you have a spiritual awakening, it just pops.
Right.
But that can create a whole lot of dysregulation too. Incrementally waking up to who you are and learning, leaning more into the journey while you're practicing your own practice, whatever that might be, is really potent and powerful, because you can look back and be like, whoa, that was even like, I was different 3 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is the way. I mean, we talk about fractals inside of our program. And Mandelbrot was the one that came up with the fractal idea. He coined that phrase. But it's small steps repeated create the complexity of life. And every neuron that you have was created through small steps. Your identity, even the one handed to you from your family and culture, society, was handed to you one small step at a time. You just adopted it. And then, shifting into the new identity, it's going to be one small step at a time. Every tree grows with one sprout. And then it incrementally grows until it's greatness. And then it shares that fruit with the world. And then that incrementally grows. So it seems to be a law of God, of nature, to be able to change anything if we'll do it by small steps.
Yeah, that because I hear in that, for me, is like, if I've collected all of this in life, then certainly that's not what I am. And certainly if I've collected it and put it in the basket, then at some point in my life, I'll put the basket down and empty the contents out. And what I'll be remained with is truly who I am. Right.
Yeah. I've just collected it. That's all I've done. Right.
I have. Yeah. And it doesn't even need more tension than that, but people are bound to that.
They think that basket and what's in it is them.
Yeah. And that's again, like, why I feel I'm called here at this particular time on earth, is like, I was in that place in my life where I could not differentiate between the two, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And even as I sit with people, and they've spent some time looking at this, they have a very difficult time differentiating it from, where. So what I am is set further back. Right. And what I'm like observing is what I think I am. Right. And it's difficult to make that differentiation between
right? I can understand it here, but yeah, it's that who you think you are, you really believe that's you. But it's simply what's in the basket. It's just what you think you are. That's it.
Yeah. And I I'm sure all you gentlemen are familiar with the document process, or the main piece of that is looking at some of these judgments.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is such a pure and deep work in looking at judgments, because I mean, I found that I thought I was a holy and righteous judge. And not only that, but upon myself to be a holy and righteous judge to adjudicate punishment onto myself.
Yeah.
Right. When you get to the root of those judgments and you think that all of a sudden what you realize is there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
And that's who we are. Our being is our essential nature.
But we also put that title on really, really well. You're probably a really good judge. Really,
Oh,
the best.
You want to? It's time. Let's assert. I need to assert, and
yeah,
you know, like I had to assert it with me and with other people.
Man,
it's just like I laugh at this stuff now for me, because it's like, thank God I cannot be so wound up, because man, I was tight. You know, touchy. Yeah. I was really touchy, man. I was looking for an excuse to leave. So if you said something wrong and hit a victim point, that was a great way to leave. I wouldn't have to commit if I knew I could leave. If I had a way out, I didn't have to fully commit.
Right.
And failure to commit is the high cost of low living. We know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, you know, as I hear the message today, it's really about awakening to your power that's already there to transform into anything you can imagine. And the process of transformation is one, wake up to it. And two is allow the process of transformation to take place. And then three is step into it one small step at a time, even while the old is running, because that's going to shed like a skin and you're going to evolve into that new person. And you might not even realize you've done it. Right.
Yeah.
And any judgment just keeps you from the grace that allows you to grow. And so as you're judging yourself and shaming yourself, all you're doing is prolonging suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like that's really the, you know, again, the process of self-authentication, right? Like I was so skeptical of a lot of things when I was getting better, let's say, or tapping more into my innate well-being, that anytime someone would tell me something that I thought was a truth, I really sort of half believed it. I kind of wanted to believe it, but I was just like, I don't know if that's true. And it needed to be self-authenticated.
Right.
Right. And I think that's why I encourage people to like self-authenticate this for you, right? Don't believe this because I'm saying this. I used to sit in the chair where you're sitting and wonder who the hell this guy is talking to me, you know? And now look at me.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful thing to be able to witness that, but also be the reality. When I go to treatment centers, I can be really real with them and just say, like, the only difference between me and you is I could go back out and have one drink right now, and in a week you could be sitting in this chair teaching me, and I'd be sitting in your chair listening to you. Like, I've been doing this for a little while now, and for me, I just don't really make that, even to assume that I'm just a little further down the path than someone else. I don't even do that anymore. I can fall asleep in a moment and then wake up in a couple of minutes, and I could miss something really important, you know, when someone's talking.
That's a powerful realization right there. Is I think what makes a person powerful is recognizing that they do have the ability to go back to old ways, you know, and that we all have it in us. I read the book by Philip Zimbardo, The Lucifer Effect, and we all have it in us to be evil given the right environment. And people say, no, I'd never, but you would. And we're really hard on ourselves too. So if you're able to do that with others, you're definitely able to do it with yourself. And you're just as capable of going back to an old pathway as anybody. And I think there's power in that, because that keeps you conscious, that keeps you committed, that keeps you stepping. It definitely gets easier because your brain will start to automate and support you. But in the beginning, it's not. There's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like, you know, I alluded almost to tightening a rope around a log. And Is it feels like it begins to constrict, right? But over time, now it's like the rope is tightening on the log. I feel it tighten, but the log's on fire. So the rope does tighten down a little bit, but it burns up, and eventually maybe there'll be no log even there for the rope to tighten on. But I'm not at that place in my life yet. It's just, it just doesn't have the constriction that it used to, but I can still fall asleep in a minute. And I just don't take that for granted.
Let me ask you this. So as we've talked today, is there anything that's coming up that you feel like you should have shared or that needs to be shared? A nudge for the viewer?
How much time do we have left?
Let's just go for a minute. If you guys are good, I'm good. Ryan, are you good? Yeah.
I typically share the story whenever I speak, but I wondered if I should go into it because it takes a little bit of time to go into, but
please do.
I like saying it for the fact of anybody listening that might have a degree of trauma in their life that they think is irreconcilable or impossible to get out of, that I want to just, be here with you to in some way communicate that you can do this. Even though it feels might be a little overwhelming and overbearing, but there was a period of time when my father had locked my mom out of the house and he wouldn't let her come back in. They were going to get separated and divorced. And there was a lot of partying happening at that point in time. And there were people crashing and kind of squatting at our place. And I never even had a bedroom at that point anymore. I had to stay in his bedroom and with the door locked. And, he would bring women in there and he would sleep with them in front of me. And it got to a point of where this is why I didn't remember any of this stuff, right? Like this was something that was happening in my childhood that I didn't remember. And after after I'd gone into these shelters, I was a really angry kid, really angry. And when I was sitting in treatment, and so now this is the thing about doing the work on yourself. As I was in treatment, I had really been like there for about 2 weeks and I was just like complying to get by. Agreeable, be really agreeable. You'll get, this is a behavior I had to cope. Just be agreeable and comply. But then my drug counselor, she said, you need to make a list of all the things that you're powerless over. You got to write them down if you're going to stay here. Right. And so I said, okay, I'll do this. So I started writing this list of things that I thought I was powerless over. I'm powerless over love. I'm powerless over family, religion, relation, all this sort of stuff. And I'd done about 2.5 pages and I came to this place and I was just totally silent. And an image arose of this kid sitting on a mattress. And it wasn't from my eyes, but it was from like looking down like a security camera down to this kid sitting on a mattress in front of a TV. And I was immediately filled with all of these really sort of sick, like really sort of nauseating feelings. And then my mind ended up getting flashes of pornography. And I had realized that my father was brainwashing me to porn. And the reason, and he was saying things to me that, this is why your mom's not coming here to get you. This is, she's out, this is what she's out doing and all this sort of stuff. And, you need to, when we go to court, you need to pick me when the judge asks you. Right. And because this is what you'll have to kind of endure if you got to go and be with your mom, sort of thing. Right. And so this was something that happened in trance over months. And so I had fallen asleep though that night after this sort of thing happened. And I woke up in the middle of the night to pounding on the door. And my dad sort of yelled and ran across the living room and I didn't know what to do. So I got up and I ran down the hallway into the bathroom and I was going to try to sneak out the bathroom window. And I remember the guys saying, open the door, Dennis. We don't want the kids. We only want you. And I was tripped out because I thought as a little kid, if I jump out this window and they hear me, maybe they'll come get me and I might not get out of here quick enough. And so I just stayed in the bathroom and I sort of just squatted down in the bathroom and sat there. And I learned that if I didn't speak up, and if I didn't use my voice, and if I almost didn't breathe, I would be safe. And
Wow.
And they left. And that lesson, that was me teaching myself something that I was using to survive, because we're trying to figure this out as little kids, right? And I told my drug counselor this in the morning with my group of people, and after I told her this, she says, well, let's take a little break and we'll take some time with this now, and you guys go back and have a smoke. So I went out back, and when I walked out back, I looked out the door and I stepped down the stairs, and I saw this like this little yellow flower, and it was so bright it just pierced my eye. And I looked up to the sky, and I saw the sun, and I was immediately taken back to this moment when I was a little kid walking on the path home from school. And I looked up at the sun, and I looked up at the way the sky looked, at this sort of big dome and all the trees and all this sort of stuff. And I was this little kid, and I wasn't even trying to be or do anything spiritual, but it was like in that moment, it was like something woke up and looked through my eyes and looked back at itself. It was like the creator was there in me, but the child didn't fully understand what happened. And then I was immediately sort of thrust back into my body, back at the treatment center, and just thinking, holy smokes, man, you've been looking down at the ground this whole time.
Wow.
And that's, really when I started walking with my eyes forward, and I started to look at people after that. Right. And this is the thing, right? Is I want to share is like, we can have spiritual awakenings like this. All experience will come and it'll go. And we try to hold on to these spiritual experiences or these moments that happen because we want them to sustain, but that's not what this world is. This world is arising and passing away in each moment. And we need to understand that even if we have spiritual awakening, 2006, well, I still had another 6.5 years of getting loaded in me after that. That was profound, right?
Yeah.
If you have a spiritual awakening of that sort, and you wake up to the reality that there's something more, that there's something more deep beyond the tangibility of what I'm just seeing here in form.
Yeah.
And you fall on your ass. That's okay. That's part of the deal. It all comes with the kit. It all comes with the kit. It's okay. It's cool. Guess what? There'll be another experience that comes down the road.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
And so we're just not bound by this. We're not bound by this. And I'm no longer bound by what happened there when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I've forgiven my father. I've forgiven the church. I wear this rosary.
Yeah.
Because it was the Catholic Church that did this stuff to my people. But it reminds me of self-forgiveness. Still, every time I want to be reminded of self-forgiveness, right? Self-forgiveness, self-forgiveness, self-forgiveness. It's such a powerful way to be able to go through life and to be able to forgive myself for judging myself in the moment when something arises, right? So yeah, I'll leave it at there. There's a lot more that I could say, but I really don't want to digress. It's powerful though, man.
It is powerful, and it ties into sovereignty, the ability to reign over yourself, and you find out that you have the power to do all of this that we've talked about today. Every human has this in them. And some might not be awakened to it yet. And maybe this show would be the one that gets them to be inspired enough to wake up to that idea, right? And step into it. Some people are going to have to go through some really hard things to wake up to that. Yeah. However you get there doesn't matter. Our goal with the 12 journeys is to teach people to transform gently with themselves, because that's what we've had to do. We've learned from people like you that the pathway isn't linear. It's not all done in one sitting. It's done with small incremental changes over time, and you eventually evolve into that new way of being, and then that goes out and creates your life, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's phenomenal. Great story. And it's not just a story, like that's a memory of what actually happened in your world. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for
Yeah.
having the time for me to share it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad we did. Ryan, I just, I'm curious. Your brain's always buzzing over there. I'm curious what you're thinking as you hear all this.
I've got ADHD notes all over the place on this paper. It's just like everywhere. I've got something to remind me, not just what to say next, or like a thought that I wanted to bring up, but you gave me a lot to think about and um, to help me to view my world. I wanted to ask, um, if someone called you Moondance Robson today, would it change who you are?
It would throw me into thinking about everything that the moon means to me and how it reflects
Huh.
the source of power that lights it up in the sky.
The perspective that life gives you and experiences that life that got me emotional, dude. Being able to switch that, that wasn't easy when it wasn't even probably a possibility in your mind when somebody called you Moon Dance. Now you can take that and you can shift it and see the very best, the positive, the growth. I did that just so that, like, just for you, really, just so that you could see the massive shift that has occurred in your world. You have an incredible way with your voice, with your heart, with your mind, and you put it all together in this just beautiful, I see this like swirl of way of being. You can take anything that comes and you grab it and you move so fluidly and I related a lot to it because I didn't know my identity growing up, and thought I had to be something. And I too have a Ryan the Lion. It's a moniker. It's a title. It's a it sounds it's rhymey, but
Got to be true. It rhymes.
yeah, it rhymes. But who I am, that title doesn't define everything in my world. It shows some things that I can relate to from the name. But you could call me anything, and it doesn't change who I am because I know who I am.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of years to shift that, and it's a practice. And I loved how you both, Nick, and you, Sundance, talked about the just being gentle with yourself as you're going through this, the grace, and how fitting for an Easter Sunday as you step into that shedding of the old self because you're constantly doing it. It might feel a little itchy, but how rad and how tubular to be able to shift into this new way of being and give yourself grace for it. Love yourself. Learn to love yourself. And I see who you are. I know who you are. I don't have to. I can feel it. I can hear it. I know it. And I'm so excited with who you're becoming as well. And can't wait to meet that version of Sundance moving forward.
Yeah.
You're an amazing and incredible human being, and I love you, brother, and I appreciate you for being on our show. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. It was such a powerful word. Yeah, I want to honor you and those just the tears of wisdom. They say that that the tears are the spirit overflowing, and I think that's really true right now. It was just so interesting. Like when you said moon dance, I was just thinking about like how beautiful that is. Like how cool would it be to be in a full moon in a dark field and dancing? That's a really cool picture.
It's,
Yeah,
did we just have a full moon too? I like this.
We
Amazing.
did. We did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And then I stand up and walk away. I say, sorry, guys. Full moon.
Yeah. I'm gonna run across the football field now.
The dad jokes come out, dude. Sorry, guys. No, this is beautiful. Like all around, you know, Ryan, I've seen your transformation as you've gone through this journey. You know, Sundance, the pathway that you've demonstrated here is just, that is the way of transformation. It's when you shift who you think you are, and even your current identity is just a way of thinking. It's who you think you are. That might not even be fully true. But when you start to shift that, then everything out here kind of follows whatever that is. And so I think many of us have it backward, as we want the Band-Aid of creation. We want to try and put something over out here so that this feels better in here, but that's not the way this works. When you shift this guy or this woman, for those that are watching, and you shift that, then everything else around you follows whatever that is. And the process isn't simple. Sometimes you do go back. Sometimes you're not where your ideal is. I mean, when we talk about anxiety and depression as not living up to the ideals you think you have, that grace is what allows you to move through that without losing yourself. Is your ideal is an imagination, a creation, and a potential, but you're not required to do it. So why are you being so hard on yourself for it?
Yeah.
Right. I am grateful for the way this went today. Is there anything else on your mind that needs to be shared?
I feel complete. I'd leave people with a question.
Yeah.
If anything is inspired them to wonder what to do next.
Okay.
And it would just be to take a moment and ask yourself, what am I orientating my life around? You know, what is that chief orientation? And that's going to work whether you're struggling or whether you're kicking ass.
I love that. Well, guys, let's go ahead and wrap up right there. That's perfect. Hang with that question. Rewatch this episode. If you know somebody that could use this, share it with them. Send them the link and tell them, hey, you got to see this. Especially somebody that's maybe in the heat of struggle, that's really rewriting that identity and keeps going back and forth. This would be a great episode for them. So share it with them. Tell them not to lose hope.
That's it.
Right? Don't lose hope. Sundance, how do people connect with you? Is this a good spot right there? Spiritwealth.ca? Or is there a better place?
Spiritwealth.ca, Sundance Robson Facebook, Sundance Robson Instagram. It doesn't get any easier than that. I'm active, so I'm responding to messages all the time.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate your comments. Those that have been here from the very beginning. You know, Hugh, I see your comments every Sunday we go live. You're here. Just absolutely incredible. Grateful for you. For the others that have been on here as well, seeing Steve Hardison, Dorothy Inez, and many others join us. It's just a blessing to have you here. So go make it a giant day. We will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Love you too.